Larry Friend, thanks for joining us. And I'm sure the fans are looking forward to some of the answers to these questions that they submitted today. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Brian. How you doing? Staying safe at home?
We sure are. And that's the first question the fans always have for our coaches is, how are you and more importantly, maybe your entire family and your team doing during this time? Any problems with the crisis?
No, we've actually been doing quite well. My daughter's Karina's working in a hospital out in Wisconsin, so she's a frontline person. A big thanks to her and all the medical folks out there helping us. It's actually been pretty good for my family. My son's out working with the National Guard in California, and the other three of us are here together at home. And I say, compared to what a lot of other people are going through, I mean, my heart goes out to the people in the meat packing plants and, frontline people, and obviously the folks out in New York. So I'd say we're doing quite well compared to all that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Thankfully, Colorado not as badly affected as New York. How have you been talking to your team? Obviously, you're not around them much, but do you do Zoom calls? Do you do, team calls? Do you get together with them regularly, and how does that look?
We do weekly Zoom calls. We've mainly focused on the present. We have a question of the week. Sometimes it would be, hey, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you and your family through this international pandemic? And we've even played heads up on the Zoom calls. And they have been doing a great job communicating with each other. They're almost in constant contact with each other. And so team's been doing really well, but I think we really enjoy those Monday calls together. And then staff's been making individual calls to players and communicating that way as well.
Did you have a plan? Do you have it written out? Does Kia contact certain people, Missy other people? I mean, how do you work with your staff throughout this time? And even like the conditioning coaches, how do they get involved?
Well, Kia, Missy, and I have been, talking almost every day, and we'll discuss if there's any issues going on with players and trying to reach out to those players and our incoming class for the fall, just making sure that we're staying in touch with them. And Bryce Taylor, and congrats to both to Bryce and his wife Sierra. They just had a little boy, Blaze. He's absolutely adorable. But Bryce has done a phenomenal job getting workouts out to them, voluntary workouts out to the team. And those, they're all body weight workouts because obviously some folks don't have any access to a gym. And then our team captains, Emma Nelsa and Alexander Giggy, they've been phenomenal at setting up workout partners, just a way to keep each other accountable. And they've been doing all that via Snapchat. And it seems like they've been staying positive with all of that.
Good. That's really good. I was wondering, one of the questions from the fans is, are there any strategies you've executed during this time that keeps their skills and their training up? Do they, you mentioned the workouts. Do they do anything with the soccer ball at all, or is it just, what you can do in a room at home?
Yeah, that one's been a little bit harder. Some of them have backyards they can get to, and we have a library of technical videos for them to use. We've been trying to add to that. They've been trying to get creative in the ways they can get touches on the ball. Some are in the garage. Some have fields near their homes that nobody's in, and so they've been pretty creative. But I think that's been their biggest challenge, is trying to find a way to keep touches on the ball.
And I know you had some players that came down with some injuries at the end of last season. How do you deal with those in these current times, or who's helping with those?
Well, we got to give a shout out to Dee Zamora. She's an absolute pistol. And, we're just so thankful she came over and joined our program. She had been working with gymnastics and doesn't particularly like being outside. And so to join women's soccer, she brought a lot of spunk and a lot of care to the program. And so she's been following up with the injured players and helping them get connected to hospitals and both military and civilian facilities in their hometowns where they can continue their rehabs. We have a couple of people that still might need to get some surgeries. And so she's been really coordinating all of that for us. And on our last Zoom call, that was the first question, like, hey, D, when we're back there, is the training room going to be open? And classic D's like, well, not for you, Giggy, so it's been pretty good to have her in the program. And Dee's not a morning person either. So just every day I see her show up with a half smile on her face when we're in our indoor facility. I'm very grateful for that.
What is your feeling? What's your take on how this fall season will play out? We're getting closer and closer. Obviously, we're just now getting to the summer. But with those summer months, it always seems that the Air Force Academy's fall comes really quickly. What's your take on when there'll be soccer, if there'll be soccer, how it all looks going forward here?
That's a great question. I wish I had a complete answer, but I can tell you what I know. The Air Force Academy was the only school that kept their seniors. Was able to do an amazing job, General Severa and our Commandant General Edmondson, as far as pulling off a graduation for the cadets. So I think a lot of schools will be looking at the Air Force Academy, West Point, and Annapolis, because we'll be trying to start basic training on time. And how we can solve those problems and get people back on campus will be the first start. As far as the season, that's a little tougher. I mean, you're watching the pro leagues to see what they're going to try to do. The NCAA has come out with a phenomenal guideline with some criteria on how to return to campus and then return to play. How they'll enforce that across 50 states is going to be challenging. Just our conference alone, we're spread across the entire West. So does Colorado come out of it a little bit earlier than California? I would expect, my gut feeling is that we'll probably have a delayed start and maybe a condensed season, but I think the priority is going to be the health and welfare of all the athletes and the fans. And then to try to give this senior class across the country the best fall season we can, if we can get a fall season. But I think the worst case scenario would be to start early and then have to cancel, as opposed to maybe starting later and being in an environment where it's going to be safer for everybody to compete.
I know the coaches at the academy are kind of like a family. Have you talked to any of the spring coaches who've had basically had their seasons canceled, seniors whose careers were over? Have you talked to any of them, been able to say, hey, I got your back, I feel sorry for you, or empathize with them at all?
Oh, we have, and Mr. Nelson, George Nelson's been doing a weekly call with all of his head coaches, and they're all gutted for their seniors. But when you look at the international situation and what's been going on, everybody's pretty much gained a pretty healthy perspective of life and the bigger picture. And as bummed as we are for the senior athletes across the country, it's kind of small compared to what the rest of what's been going on around the planet. Absolutely.
Still in this crisis, though, and things are going on. How can fans of your team, how can alumni, how can people help support you and your players and all of your coaches during this time?
The support's actually been really good. Starting with Carl Jansen, who works as an adjunct professor in the faculty. He's always asking me that question: what can we do to help? And our alumni actually pulled together independently and wanted to see, hey, what can we do for the women's soccer team that gave us such a positive experience and helped launch us into the Air Force? And so they put together NCAA legal care packages and just, sent out some goodies to the players, and just wanted to let them know that, hey, we're there, we're thinking of you. And that was really nice of them. We're trying to continue to build that relationship, because I think it's really important that our players have female Air Force leaders that they can look out to and go, wow, we share something in common. I really have to do a shout out to the senior class's parents. One of their legacies, they've been very generous, and they helped us rebuild our locker room and give our cadets a really nice space to, be in. And so, the Stavig family and the Bezdeks and the Spears, that's just really something special that's going to be there. We just got it completed and then rolled into the pandemic. But that was just one way that they could help, just something to make it a little bit nicer. Obviously, everybody across the country is looking at cuts, and usually people think, well, you're the Air Force Academy, you're a government school, you got everything taken care of, but that just really isn't the case. And so all the little extras that we try to do for our team, pre-game meals, post-game meals, trying to upgrade our stadium. I mean, it's the academy is a beautiful facility, and our field's wonderful, but that stadium is showing its age, and being able to bring that up to speed would be, really something special for the cadets of the future. But right now, we're just trying to figure out how we get through the season with the upcoming budget cuts.
Yes, we won't even get into that, but because I don't want to bring all the fans down with all this talk. Let's talk soccer. Let's talk about your team. And obviously, there was some excitement from last year. Last year, you talked all the time about being, picked, 12th, in the top 12 for the Mountain West Conference. And but a fan wants to know if Air Force, coming off of last season, should be in the discussion for maybe a favorite to compete to win this conference in this coming season.
Yeah, I used to joke around about, we were picked in the top 12. We're excited about that. Some of that ranking was deserving. We had a very good, solid team, and we were stingy defensively, but we really struggled scoring goals. We had people that could score goals, but we didn't have goal scorers. I think that was the biggest change to the program is our offense really improved. When you look at Jillian Jamero and Lexi Romero starting up top with Brianna Bezdek mixing in there, and then you look at the midfielders underneath that with Erin Spear and Emily Benner, Faith Lee, Emma Nelson. Two of those people will graduate, and we'll miss Erin and Bree. But you got those 5 returning, and that's a fabulous front 5 right there. With Emily Benner in the middle and team captain Emma Nelson on one side and Faith Lee on the other side of that with the O's up top. If you're playing against Air Force and you're playing against someone whose last name ends in O, you got to watch out for that, because those two really have built a very good relationship, moving off the ball with each other and just understanding where they are on the field.
They certainly have. And Lexi Romero, player of the year, freshman. Very rare to have a freshman of the year, the player of the year in the conference. So one of the fans asked, actually pronouncing Lexi Romero a superstar, and wants to know if she continues to play like she has, what's next for her. She really came in gangbusters. So where does she go from here, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, I think the sky's the limit for Lexi because of the type of person and player she is. She's confident. She's a great teammate. She wants to break records, but most importantly, she just loves being around her teammates, and she likes winning. And as we joked around a lot last year, winning's fun. And I just think if she stays healthy and can compete like that, I really think the sky is the limit for her. That offensive player of the year, that's only happened once in the history of the conference that a freshman had won that. And so that's pretty impressive. And I really appreciate all the other coaches in the conference acknowledging that, wow, Air Force had a heck of an offense, and she was a big part of that.
I'd like to speak, though, to you mentioned her being a good teammate. And sometimes when this happens in sports, one player gets a lot of accolades, gets a lot of attention, and there can be some jealousy and some bad feelings that come up among the team. I didn't sense that from your team, as far as Lexi and maybe even Jillian to some respects was. Do you see any of that, or do you have a good, solid team together?
We've got a good, solid team, and you got to give credit to that senior class for helping to establish that culture. It was a culture of closeness, and a competitive culture. One of the things we talked about is we want to be a soccer team that handles this drama, not a drama team that plays soccer. And I think our seniors did a good job with that. And we want to be a family. Lots of teams across the country talk about, oh, we're a family, we're a family. But we want to be a competitive family. And I think the maturity on the team is the reason that never became an issue, because there was no reason to be jealous that Lex Romero scoring a lot of goals, because we're winning games, and winning is fun. But when you don't have a goal scorer, it's a painful experience in this game. It is absolutely brutal. Anyone that really wants to spend a little free time feeling that experience, watch the Netflix series Sunderland Till I Die. That's a wonderful program with a wonderful stadium, and they have an educated fan base, and they didn't have a goal scorer, and they got relegated from the Premier League to the first division. And let me tell you, it was painful watching that, and it is painful going through it. But that's the experience for any soccer coach who doesn't have an offense that can put balls in the back of the net.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you've dealt with that a few years for
one or two.
Yeah, for whatever reason, through injuries, through things. But you had such success last year. Everybody was excited. How do you build on that success? How do you get better? How do you get the Romero Jamero thing continuing, and maybe get Faith Hill in there and some of the other players that you mentioned? How do you build off this success and make sure that they're going up and not plateauing or going down?
Well, I think it starts with the players. They're hungry, and as you know, we ended the season on a loss, and that knocked us out of the conference tournament. That is burned into their memories, and what they learned from that is there's a lot of games that we gave up earlier in the season just due to inexperience. We had a very young team out there, and our two new team captains, Emma Nelson and Alexander Gigi, they want to pick it up. They know what helped us get successful. They've had a lot of interaction with the former team captains. They're just excited to now take it in a upward direction from here. They both, were on it right away, starting in November. Like, okay, coach, yeah, that was fun, but we could have done a lot better, and we will do a lot better. And so that's where we're going in the spring. The training sessions were super competitive, and to try to get into the indoor facility when the weather's not good, we had to go dark 30 in the morning, and just the commitment. I mean, I walk into that building and it's freezing, and I'm not getting a lot of warm hellos from the people that are not morning people, but man, when they strapped their boots on, they just came out and they competed, and it's always admirable to watch. Just the ability that they have to compartmentalize and then get onto the field and play.
We talked a lot about the offense, but the defense pretty much is intact. You lose one defender, Casey Stavig, from last season. Let's talk about that side of the ball a little bit, and what do you expect this upcoming year?
Yeah, the defense is coming back a little bit more mature. Alex gets better every day, leading that back four, and Casey was an unbelievable shutdown defender. We knew whatever side Casey was on that nobody was going to get through on that side. So we'll miss her quite a bit. I think Danny got a lot of experience in the goal this year, and she had a huge challenge. I mean, coming from not getting a lot of minutes her first 2 years, and then following Jen Hiddink, none of us ever really highlighted that. We just wanted to focus on Danny being Danny, but it was out there. I mean, Jen was a a once in a generation goalkeeper. And I think Danny brought a little bit different style, and I think she'll bring that back next fall with more maturity. I think Kayla Milford matured quite a bit because it was trial by fire. I mean, we threw her on the field against the University of Texas and said, "Welcome to D1 soccer," and she improved quite a bit as a player, and I think she's got a lot of upside. You know, you bring Britt back on one side and Keelan Asoba, and you know, we're looking at Bella playing back there as well. It's going to be a very good back four with that group. Still trying to figure out who's going to fit in that defensive midi position, but you know, Kat Bakken's been doing well there. Matt's been playing really well there. Jen McFadden, if she can get healthy, she's very strong in that position. So I think we're going to be very strong from back to front and front to back. And you know, one of the things we've always said is, hey, look, forwards, you're our first defenders, and goalkeepers, you're our first attacker. And I have a big shout out to Brian Bernowski. You know, he's our volunteer coach, and he does it because he loves the academy. His dad was military and just wants to be able to give back. And he knew he had a challenge getting an inexperienced goalkeeping core up and running to get ready to fill in from when Jen Hittick did graduate. He's out there every day, just steady Eddie, and you know, the players and myself and the staff just really appreciate him as well.
That's awesome. Have you noticed, as far as the recruiting, we'll jump to recruiting now, have you noticed more excitement maybe from some of the recruits that you talk to, or at least they don't say who about Air Force anymore?
You know, it's still going to be that challenge of finding a person who has top-notch academics, since we are, you know, a top academic school, who can also play soccer at the Division I level in a very athletic conference, because the Mountain West Conference is just, it's very competitive, and anybody can beat anybody, and that truly has been the case. And then you have that challenge of the military commitment after graduation. But I think we've been a way to show that that's a challenge, but also an opportunity. The women that have gone before them have gone on to have great careers and a great adventure. And that's what we've been able to sell is, you know, you're going to be in an environment where people care about you. You know, you've got a guaranteed job and a guaranteed adventure after graduation, where you're going to get a chance to really build your resume for life. Whether you choose to stay in the Air Force or to go into the civilian community, you're going to be a leader in either environment. The winning definitely helps the program quite a bit, because they do get excited about that, and they go, "Oh man, I saw some of your highlights, and man, you guys are fun to watch." And that's been a lot of the comments from both the female alums and the male soccer player alums is, you know what, I keep coming back because you're fun to watch. You bring some excitement to the field.
That's great. I think another key part of the question on the recruiting aspect is the fans want to know, is the military aspect of the Air Force Academy the biggest challenge, the biggest hurdle to get over with young women who want to come play soccer for you? Do you have a lot of them that go, I just don't know if I can do the military thing?
We do. And we try to help them through that by a couple things. It's intimidating. The environment's intimidating. And really what they begin to learn is it's the academic challenges, the rigors of the school. It is a phenomenal academic school. And so getting them on the campus and realizing, wow, these people are just like my friends on my club team, and they're just like my friends from high school. They're ordinary people trying to accomplish something extraordinary. And I think that's the best way to put it is, you know, don't look at them all as extraordinary. They're just people like your friends from your hometown, but they want to accomplish something extraordinary. You know, I think that's one of the key things that young people are beginning to see is, if you look at Hollywood's version of basic training, and there's some truth to the way the military used to be, that you bring in a bunch of people and you tear them down to just bring them to their knees, and then you build them back up into this, you know, unified machine. That's not the case anymore, and that's definitely not the way the Air Force is, because it's so unique, and it's so, you need creativity. and you need leadership from all different angles. So the new mentality for basic training is to take all these wonderful, talented people who have a desire to want to serve and get challenged. And instead of tearing them down, we immediately want to just build them up. And so the process now is more to unify them. And that's why you'll do some of the traditional things like marching. I will say in my 20-year career, I marched this many times. Why would you waste your tax dollars on a college graduate who's supposed to be flying on marching? But the traditional part of that is very important. And that's a way that, you can unify them. But I really think that's the way the military has improved so much, is to say, okay, you're talented. We get that. Now let's make you talented and selfless, and let's bring you to our team. And that's the coolest thing about basic training, is watching people from all over the country, come in with everything that they're bringing, and then become one solid Air Force Academy. I think the other part that's helped with the recruiting is, I really got to give a shout out to Missy Strasburg and the phenomenal amount of work she does on social media to get our team and our team's personality out to the fans and to future Falcons that are looking. And she just, she is on every venue that you can be on, making sure that you're seeing a smiling Falcon somewhere out there. And I think our alumni have really appreciated that whatever channel that they like to use, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, Missy's got information out there for them to see.
That is awesome. And once anyone's around your team for any period of time, they'll see that, I don't know if fun loving's the perfect word for it, but they're happy and they're excited to be, moving forward and doing what they do. One last question on that kind of military aspect of things. Can you point to something? Do you ever use it and say, yes, but this in some ways makes you a better player, a better teammate, some way, going through basic cadet training actually does something in you that maybe you don't get somewhere else?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that they need to see right away is people don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care. And they can see that from my staff, is that, look, we care about you as the whole person. We want to be a three-dimensional coach, and it's body, mind, and soul. And so when they see that the whole academy is like that it is full of caring people that come to work with a smile on their face, it begins to introduce them to just how wonderful people in the military are. And then you can go on to talk about, what your opportunities are graduating from the Air Force Academy, and you can look beyond the soccer experience. And I think that helps them quite a bit it helps them to make that decision quite a bit.
Absolutely. Speaking of fun loving, the final question I have for you here, not sure where it originated from. Maybe you have some ideas, but they want to know how many years you've been bald. And because apparently the people want to know this. And is that the main reason why you wear a hat?
Okay, I know where those questions came from. So I just want to say hi to Casey Stavig and to Brianna Bezdek. Let's see, I'd say about 10 years into our marriage, my power alleys turned into highways. And then I started getting that friar tuck thing in the back. And, my wife, Mary Beth, she loved Sir Patrick Stewart, otherwise known as Jean-Luc Picard. And she just loved that look. So on our 10-year anniversary, I just went upstairs, I grabbed a razor, and I took a big old swipe and almost threw up because I overcommitted. And so my face was brown and my head was skull white, and I shaved the rest of it off and went down the stairs, and she just started screaming, "He did it!" And so I've had it like this since 1999. But here's the thing. I took my kids camping, and it was great. And we're out there in Western Maryland, and it's beautiful out there. And then the evening came, and it got a little chilly, and my head started freezing on the side. So, I ducked under the sleeping bag and warmed up, but then I started suffocating. So then I pulled back out, and then my head would freeze, and I'm going through this. And I looked over at my son, and he was out cold. And I'm like, he doesn't need that beanie. I do. And so I took that beanie, and it just became from there on out, grabbing as many beanies as I could from the Air Force. So I had a different look. I did have the players one season try to count how many different type of hats I could bring to practice. But now it's the bucket hat. They all like the bucket hats.
Well, it keeps the sun off your face too, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's a good look for you. I can't remember when you had hair. I've been around a while. I can't remember when you had. Is there a picture out there with you with a mullet or something that we could show the fans?
Yes and no.
So there is a picture out there, but we can't show the fans. I get it. I understand.
We were at the superintendent's house. He did an ice cream social for, he does that for everybody that, beats West Point or Navy. And he and I were classmates. And so he's joking around like, hey, if you want to see what Coach Friend looked like with hair, all the yearbooks from the history of the academy are up on this shelf. And I was like, dang it, Jay. And that's exactly what they did, is they went and grabbed that yearbook and started looking through it. And I'm like, oh, wow, Coach Friend, you got a mop. But it was in regs, so just want to make sure that's real.
Of course it was in regs. We understand that. Well, before I let you go, is there anything else you wanted to say to Falcon Nation, so to speak, the fans, the supporters, the people that have been around your program?
Yeah, I think I really want to thank the alumni for coming out to our alumni weekend last year, and the fact that they're getting more and more involved with the team. And I think it's neat. Kia Sutta, my associate head coach, she is started what they call the Jersey Project. And she's reaching out to all the alumni and getting their jersey numbers so that our current players that are wearing that same number can kind of reach out to the legacy of that number. So, if a player's got number 19, they can reach out to Kristen Brody and say, hey, I'm wearing your number now. And we think that'll be a neat way to continue the connection with the blue line of female soccer players at the academy. It's for the fans. They've been unbelievable. We had some games where the weather didn't particularly agree, and they just found a way to muscle through that, and that just makes it so much more fun for the players. I'll never forget last fall when Giggy just banged in a free kick, and the rest of the game, every time there was a free kick coming up, the men's water polo team is going, Giggy, Giggy. And she's trying to keep a straight face and focus on the game. But, that just makes the whole environment more fun, and hopefully we can get back out there and watch some soccer and have some fun and return to some sort of normalcy, if that's going to be even possible for the fall season.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll find out. It's still got a few months to maybe get over that hump and really flatten that curve, and hopefully we'll be out there. I'm sure your fans want to see your team back out there because it really was an exciting team to watch last season. Coach Friend, thanks for the time, and stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
You bet.